Hello, I'm Jenya Delima. Welcome to Writing and Editing, the author-focused podcast that takes a whole-person approach to everything related to both writing and editing. Authors have multiple options available to them for selling their books and other merchandise, but it often means giving up a significant amount of control and sharing your revenue. However, there's another option, which is using your own platform to sell your books independently. Best-selling and award-winning author Elsie Sun is here to share how this works and why you should also consider it. Well, it is always a joy to talk with you.
I'm happy to talk with you too. Thanks for bringing me here.
Of course. So for those who aren't already familiar with you, could you share a little bit about yourself and what you write?
Okay. Again, I'm Elsie Sun. I write paranormal romance, dark fantasy. Been publishing since 2019. My first book was Beautiful Nightmare, and everything has been paranormal romance, vampires, wolf shifters, grims and reapers, and all those fun monsters in between. That's me in a nutshell over the last 5 years.
So what led you to looking into having your own platform, or did you do it right away?
I did not do it right away. I actually, if I could go back to 2019 me, I would go back and tell her to start it, but I didn't. I had heard other authors who were doing, direct selling.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I thought about it, but I really wasn't sure how the mechanics worked. I was really kind of confused.
Right.
Um, so when I started sharing, advanced reader copies, I started to learn about different technologies you could use to, share those. And then I started thinking, well, if you could do that for something that's free, how can that work for something that's paid?
Ah,
And for
yeah.
me, I realized that BookFunnel, which is one of the plugins that I use, has a feature to allow you to sell direct on certain websites like Shopify or PayHip, which is what I use. And so it started as just, let me just try, one of my older books, see how it goes, use it as a reader magnet, which was really cool. But, again, that's nice for the freebies.
Mhm.
But I wanted to see about, just really what I could do on the direct side. And I knew it was going to kind of be a little tough because when you're an indie author, we rely heavily on Kindle Unlimited.
Right. Yes.
So I don't want to get too far ahead, but so I was trying to figure out, like, kind of straddling the fence on, should I just go wide, which I tried? Should I just go, direct? What should I do? And one of the things that really kind of got me to this place was one of my books just dropped from Kindle Unlimited for no reason. I didn't do anything wrong. They said they didn't know what happened. It
Yeah.
just dropped.
You see horror
And
stories like that all the time too. Or like
yeah,
their account is suddenly deleted, or
yeah.
they're told it doesn't fit their standards, whatever those standards are, their criteria, or you broke a rule, but they don't tell you exactly which rule you broke, or you can't figure out how you broke it. Yeah.
And you can't get that traction back. Like, no matter what you do, it's so hard to go back and do a relaunch. And I did that. You lost those pre-orders. And so you try to get them back once they reinstated the book. And I'm like, yeah, but okay, you reinstated it. Can you just go back and tell those readers that it's back? Like,
Oh, yeah, exactly.
and
Because you
they don't
don't
do
have that
that.
information, so you can't do it. So then what? And then those people are mad probably too.
Yeah, because then it's viewed on the author. They don't look at it as the platform may have had a technical hiccup or there was some adverse action that you couldn't control. They just look
Right.
at it, well, maybe she wasn't able to publish her book. No, my book was there, it was ready. And they didn't just drop the ebook, they dropped the print too. And it was just like the whole thing just went away. I was crushed. And so
Mhm.
that's when I made a plan that for my next book, I would go towards trying to see what it looked like for direct and just to try it out. And it was really successful. It was surprisingly successful. I went through a few courses, some other authors who, had already been doing it successfully. And I just kind of went from there.
What kind of courses did you take, or can you even remember maybe the names of some of them that were especially helpful?
Oh, I can't. Oh gosh. There's this one author in particular, really wonderful lady. I can't think of her name right off the top of my head. I would have to go back to the Facebook group. But I found her on one of those author Facebook groups, and a lot
Yeah.
of people had raved about her courses. And so I took, a couple of her courses, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm in a IT adjacent field in my 9 to 5. So it doesn't take me long to pick up stuff. Not that I want to do a whole lot of heavy software lifting outside
Right.
of my 9 to 5 hours. So I was like, oh, okay. And, I was like, okay, this is easy enough. I can do it. So that's, what kind of got me to the place. And then I just started adding more and more books there. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to the direct selling.
And then how has your marketing strategy changed? Because obviously now you don't have the pull of, well, you can go find it here or anything they might be doing, like their recommended books and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so one of the great things about, having some books that are still on Kindle Unlimited and then having some books that are not, is whatever information you put in that back part of your book to let the people know where to find you. If they liked your book, they're going to want to keep up with you, right? And they're going to
Mhm.
want to find you and they'll go to your website and then they'll find you from there. And so really kind of drawing people in through the newsletters that I offer at the end of my books has really been a big selling point for me. And I say this all the time because I have talked to other authors about it. I like to start with the $0 marketing strategy first. And I say that the newsletter signups are a $0 marketing strategy because it doesn't really cost you anything
Right.
to collect that. So I started there, and then so you get to market to those folks because they are a part of your reader base. But actually, social media has been really good for me. I am not going to lie and say that I'm like this super seller of direct books. There are some authors who are six-figure sellers, and I am hoping for that to be me one day. But yeah, I am modestly moving forward in a good way. The cool thing that I think I like about it is, you can see the marketing happen right away. For example, when I would market on Amazon or any other platform like that, I don't necessarily see it right away.
Mhm.
Um, but in this, like if I make a social media marketing, ad or something like that, I can actually see that person clicked, and then I can actually go to my
Oh,
dashboard and
right.
see.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, with Amazon, and here's the other thing, sometimes they don't catch your sales.
I've heard that
People,
too. Yes.
yeah. And I know that by like actually clicking something myself and waiting to see it. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. I'll go pick up like some obscure short story that I know no one even, unless you know me and you're looking for me, even though someone went through the other day and got my catalog, I was like, oh, okay, whoever you are, thank you. But like, I'll go and pick something
Mhm.
like that I know I'm not marketing to see what happened. And, so that would happen. Whereas with direct, I see it from two ends. So on the book funnel side, they let you know a book went out,
Mhm.
and then on the other side, like if you use Shopify or PayHip, you're alerted, right? And then whatever your revenue stream that you collect your resources, that's a third way of letting you know. So and your resources are instant. There's no 90-day wait.
That's
Um,
interesting too, thinking about it, like you said, from marketing, being able to know what's working and what isn't. Because you do
yeah,
hear that a lot about, like, even if you're going to do a Facebook ad or you're going to use certain keywords on Amazon that you might not always know, especially if you're using a whole bunch at one time, you're not always going to be completely certain, especially right away. Is this the one that's attracting people, or is it this one, or is it this thing I'm
yeah.
doing, or this other thing? So you
Hmm.
talked about Shopify, PayHip, those kinds of things. How do you know what to look for when you're choosing a platform? Or how do you know if one's going to maybe be better suited to you than another one?
Yeah. So for me, I think skill set is one big thing. For me, Shopify required way too many plugins. And, everyone is different in what their needs are. But I did not want a platform that was going to require me to, one, have so many plugins and then have to pay for all of these variants of
Oh, right.
plugins, depending on, if you're using Square, if you're using this, I was like, okay, that's just too many things. PayHip for me was a lot easier and very simple, but there's pros and cons with both. I think because Shopify is a bigger platform, a lot of people are more familiar with it. I will say that PayHip has a terrible name. I think that's a terrible name because nobody knows what that means. Shopify tells you what it means. When you say Shopify,
Yes.
that means I'm going to shop and get something, whatever the product. PayHip, that just sounds like at first I was like, what the heck does that mean? Are you a part of PayPal? Like, what is that?
Yeah,
And
it
it's
does
not.
sound
They
like
have
some
nothing to
sort
do
of,
with each other.
yeah.
So I had to try it out with other authors that I saw, and I was like, okay, and then we buy their book and see what happens. And I bought a book, and I was like, okay, that worked. So and then I was like, okay, and I got my book, and I saw how BookFunnel sent the email, and I was like, okay, so this is no different than when people get ARCs. So if you're used to getting an ARC, then you can do this, and because I think a lot of people are inherently afraid of direct buy, not just authors, but readers. And so
Mhm.
they're like, I don't know what that means, and they get scared because they're afraid,
Right.
because, in this time, we're so afraid of being scammed. And so
Yeah,
people see it and they're like afraid, like, how do I know I'm going to get it? And I'm like, if you are familiar with BookFunnel, which is why I like it so much, because they're a recognized provider for books. I feel like, a lot of readers, once they realize that, and then you don't need to pay BookFunnel to be able to get it. So,
oh. Yes, you talked about how in your day job that you do have familiarity with this, you work with this sort of thing. Do you think it's also easy enough to use for people who aren't as tech savvy?
right. I think PayHip is. Shopify, I don't feel like it is. Shopify overwhelmed me. And I'm, like I said, pretty tech savvy. And I was like, okay, no one's doing all this. I'm not doing all this. But again, there are people you can pay if you really want to do Shopify. I know that there are companies out there that will build your Shopify for you. And you can just pay
Oh,
them to build it and they'll put in the plugins and do all the stuff. So if you have the resources to do that, then go right ahead. I know some people, that's what they just rather give it to someone else to take care of and go from there. So if that's what you want to do, I did not want to do that. So I think PayHip was easy because, one, it's free. It does not require you to pay a monthly subscription. So you only pay a percentage of your sale like anything else.
oh, that's
Um,
nice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's not top heavy at all. So it's like, it's very customizable as far as the website to put together, very customizable. And you can really build your site really, really well. It can almost look like some of the Shopify sites if you want to go that far, or you can keep it really simple and really basic. And it even has subscription options and things of that nature. So if people want to stay subscribed to you to find out what other books you have, or if you have any sales running, things of that nature, they can do that too. So that's been really, really good. My best-selling book on Direct Buy was Vengeance Born, and it's still my best-selling one. I think because I probably marketed that one a little stronger than anything. And you get to see what your views, your dashboard right away. I'm like, what do you mean in my first week, like 1,000 people had viewed it? And I was like, whoa, like where'd they come from? And then, over time, and you get to see that grow and grow and grow. And then you get to see your sales grow and grow. And, I'm speaking right now from the ebook side of it, but I also sell paper, and hardcovers as well. That, has its place, because I know a lot of people who sell on the TikTok shop side and they do that. I
Okay.
haven't
Yeah.
haven't done that too.
Or the signed
But
editions too. Especially now, I'm seeing a lot of people put out signed editions because holidays are coming up, that sort of thing. So it seems more
yep.
like a gift type item.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say one of the biggest reasons why I went direct was because I wanted to be able to control my business. As I mentioned before, when Amazon dropped that book, I wasn't in control. I
Mm-hmm.
had no control over it. I didn't have any control over it. And loss of control is a big deal for me. And I didn't like that feeling. And I just felt helpless. Like there was nothing I could do but send these, what I kept feeling like very pathetic emails to my readers saying, I'm so sorry. I do not want to be that person. That's not a part of our personality type. So I was like, I don't want to do this, but I had to, communicate.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted to be in control of my sales. So one of the things that I've been kind of toying around with, which has really been working for me, is that I've been doing my pre-order sales on Direct Buy.
Okay. So how is that different than when you were doing it, say, on Amazon?
So with Amazon, as I mentioned, when you do the pre-order, of course, the person doesn't get the book until the book is released.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the same difference happens here, but you actually get paid for the sale right away. Whereas with Amazon, you don't. You still have
Right.
to wait your 90 days. And if they drop you, then you're going to lose that, right? So the good thing is no one can drop you because this is your site. Again, you're not paying for hosting what PayHip site. So, I'm not getting paid by PayHip at all. They, for as much as I talk about them, I wish I was. But
It would be awesome if they sponsored this episode after, though.
I know they really should. Uh, but yeah, so they're not front heavy or whatever. And so for the pre-orders, they have a nice connection with BookFunnel where you can actually have it set up for a future date. And so BookFunnel
Oh,
will say, hey, your books are going out to 100 people tomorrow, and get ready, and so you get all of the support from BookFunnel, all of the support from PayHip, and It's seamless and you literally don't have to do anything, just like Amazon. So it's not like I had to get up in the morning and remember to send an email to 100 people, And again, I'm speaking specifically for the digital books, but
Mhm.
yeah, you do the exact same thing. You just have to make sure it's in BookFunnel, just like you would have had to make sure it's in Amazon. And the good thing is the way I did it, for example, for my most recent book, Till Death Do Us, I gave myself a whole month in advance before it went to KU. So I got a chance to give some bonuses to the people who purchased early. So they got incentives. And that's one of the biggest things I always preach. If you're going to do direct buy, it's okay to give exactly what you have on Amazon, but because people are already loyal to Amazon, you
Right.
want to kind of curate it a little bit and do the a little bit more. So give them a bonus chapter, give them some incentives for purchasing early. I was like, if you're gonna purchase early, I'll get you art, I'll get you stickers, I'll get you, you know what I mean? Those are some of the things you could do.
That's a great tip because I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier too about that almost being a barrier where people are afraid that they might get scammed or again that they might feel like, okay, I'll spend 99 cents and get this pre-order and it's not a big deal if it doesn't go through, but there might be that hesitation if they're going to make a larger order and that larger order could even just be $20 for a paperback. But yeah, if you have something you're offering them as well, and then as soon as people see that, yeah, this is actually coming into my mailbox and then they're sharing
Yep.
it, yeah, then also you have
Yeah.
that social proof from other people.
Yep. And even with the physical book, so if you do a order for a physical book, through my PayHip, Etsy,
Mhm.
I was kind of holding for like my backlog books, and that's kind of how I started. But now I've started shifting it, so that I can have equal, inventory on both sides. That way, I don't care if they're an Etsy shopper and they get me, great. If they come to my PayHip site and they get me, great. Doesn't really matter which way you get me. I'm open to all of the direct buy, any way you want. My biggest thing to authors is just to be able to control your bag, just to be able to control what you can control. And when you do start to see how you can get your resources not only faster, but just the same, if not more, and you get to cut out the middleman, it's a good feeling.
So, what are the advantages to using two different platforms like you have Etsy and PayHip?
So the cool thing about Etsy is they do their own marketing. So they're already doing soft marketing in the background. And, if someone buys something similar to
Oh,
my
great.
store, they're already do that. PayHip is starting to move in that route, but as they're getting, a little bit more recognition. So they just opened a marketplace, which is
Oh,
really,
okay.
yeah. So you can actually go to the marketplace and see other books, and you can put your books in the marketplace. And so if someone's in the marketplace, so they're working up their recognition. I know in Shopify, if I get an author's book and if there's a similar title, so they'll say, hey, you may want to get this. That's the kind of marketplace stuff I would like to see in PayHip, because I think that would help all of us authors over time. But it's not as isolating as Amazon, because that's just how marketing works.
Mm-hmm.
And no slack to the reader, but that's just what we do. Well, with direct selling, you're not affording that reader that opportunity. You're putting them in front of your space. You're saying, hey, these are my books, and here's what you can see from me. And even with Shopify, one of the things I like is that they don't do the cross sell until you've put that other book in the cart. So
Oh,
that way you've already gotten that book from the author you came there for it initially,
okay.
and then they'll cross sell it. They were like, well, while you're getting this, do you want to get? I appreciate that, because at least
Yeah.
that author that I came there for is going to get the sell I intended. And then if I pick up someone else new, that's great too. That's really good.
How do you handle the distribution of physical copies?
So with PayHip, if you order a physical book, it's the same kind of deal. You put in your address and everything like you would. And I can actually enter in, once I have like the UPS shipping, or tracking and everything. I
Mhm.
just enter the tracking in, and PayHip will send that person an email saying, hey, here's the tracking number for your book. So it's real cool. But, and then I just take it over to the post office or UPS or wherever I need to go. That's always been real cool. And I have yet to have a hiccup. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I haven't had any problems with it. Unlike TikTok, they don't require all these really weird rules and different labels. And I was like, okay, TikTok. Yeah, I was I'm like, I have a very demanding 9 to 5, and then the other parts of my life are very demanding. The minute another outside source starts demanding something extra from me, I'm like, okay, never, nope, nope, I can't be doing that. I can't.
I think that's actually good news for a lot of people who might be on the fence, especially when we think of something where you have to learn a new platform or how it works or even what their rules are. It can just feel like this is too much to learn and I already have
Yeah,
enough going on. I don't need to also devote 20 hours of my life to this.
yeah.
So, are there any disadvantages to running your own platform or to doing direct buy?
There are things that you do need to remember, like, you gotta be organized. I have, again, I mentioned that type A personality. So I have a very extensive Excel spreadsheet to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing for each book. I mean, it's a template, that I created over time, and it's kind of my go-to. So you got to do it. And every time I mess up, it's because I haven't been using the template like I'm supposed to. So you really do have to be very organized, because when you're doing direct buy, you have no one else to blame but you. You can't go to Amazon and say you didn't post it, or that's not the right cover. I upload. It's on you. If it's not up there, it's on you.
Mhm.
Like the other day, I realized that something still said pre-order, and I'm like, the book is out, and so I fuss at LC as if we're not the same
Right?
company. And
Go in the mirror and shake your finger.
Elsie, I'm like, no, you're not watching the eighth time of Interview with a Vampire. You will see Lestat later. You need to go and fix this. You could be rewarded with Lestat after you do this. So yeah, so you just have to be really disciplined to make sure. The biggest thing I think would be to keep it simple. The simpler you keep it, the easier it is that you're not forgetting a whole lot. So you don't want to get too fancy. So, you do have to make sure you're real good. So I put a lot in my phone. I have dates in my phone too. Like, I have a date right now to take something off of KU at such and such time. I'm like, okay, make sure you take such and such off because it's going to your direct buy. So you need to make sure, so you have to be very organized.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, just thinking about meeting all the different deadlines and making sure you've done all the different steps that are required. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a level of organization that you're already used to, so just apply it to this too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, even though Book Funnel is like really easy and really helpful, you got to make sure that you have two different versions. Like, if you have your advanced reader copy that you've
Mm.
watermarked to death, well, you can't have that be the one that you're selling.
Oh,
So,
right.
and those were
Yes.
trial and error things I figured out along the way, right?
Well, for anyone who still isn't quite convinced, would you have anything else you'd want to tell them?
Again, I think my biggest thing would just be, I think everyone can direct sell something. I think, you don't have to think about it in terms of putting your whole catalog out there. It could be a reader magnet. And that's how I started. I started with a reader magnet. I started to grow my email list. And that's how I realized that I could do this and that readers were open to the idea of getting things directly from me. So wherever you are in the process, get something on. And I would say if you can, even with something like PayHip, because it doesn't cost you, you're not paying upfront, or you're not paying monthly, go ahead and set it up, and you can make all of the links invisible and hidden. But if Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or any other large
Ah,
retailer
yes.
messes up on you, you make that link public and you go live. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
that is so true.
yeah, and the cool thing about it is, if you don't have a website, just use PayHip as your website. You
Mm,
don't, like,
well, especially
use
if it's
PayHip.
free.
Yeah, it's free. I'm like, you use get that and some links in bio and call it a day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so and then just make your money and just make your money. And then as you grow, you can, diversify and do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so you can, for the most of the direct buys, Shopify and PayHip included, you can leave reviews there too.
Oh,
So that's
nice.
also it's a cool feature. So you just have to reminder folks, just like you do for anything, to go
Yes.
back and leave a review.
But
That's still cool with
still,
me.
knowing that too, that people probably feel a little bit safer shopping from you if they go over there and they see even like 10 positive reviews or 50 or whatever it is. Just knowing that this isn't a website that just popped up overnight and you don't really know if you're going to get what you purchased or not.
Right, right.
Or even what's
And
going to happen to your payment information. I think that's another concern people might have.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. And I will tell you, we see nothing. It's just like, anything else because, all the information goes to, for me, goes to PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
So PayPal sees everything. They're the middleman
Right.
conduit.
Yes.
So I don't see anything. And I think that's what people, yeah, you're right. People probably are afraid of that, thinking that, their information is out there. I'm like, I have no idea what credit card. You could have put it in your mama's name. I have no idea how you paid for the book. I'm just saying thank you. That's all I know. So yeah, so they can be assured that yeah, we don't see anything. There is an option on my PayHip for you to subscribe. So if you subscribe when you purchase, then I know such and such,
Oh,
but if you don't subscribe, I have no idea. But like I said, you do have the option, and that's the other cool thing about direct buy. You can get folks to subscribe because you can't really do that with Amazon unless they go to the back of your book and you have it there. But there's only follow you on Amazon, but there's no get to your newsletter, outside
oh,
of
right.
people get it for your book. And if you're like me, I don't always go to the back of the book. So I'm not the best reader either. I'm just as bad as the ones I'm wishing were great for me.
I think a lot of us are that way. So, I mean, admittedly, I'm also really bad at leaving reviews.
Well, as an author, I try not to. I'm real careful about that. You're not gonna come back and say LC said anything. LC may tell her husband a whole bunch, but that's about it.
Well, before we end, where is the best place for people to find you if they want to learn more about your books or see your website or sign up for your newsletter?
They can always go to www.lcsunbooks.com and you can find all of my connectors there. But I am on Facebook under author LC Sun and Instagram under author LC Sun. It's all the same. I am also on TikTok and Threads. So yes.
All right. Thank you again. And
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I was happy to have you. And thank you for listening, and be sure to check out the show notes for additional information. And then please join me next week when Sue Mel will explain how to use subtext in dialogue. Thanks again.